more, I more just wanted to bring it up just so you could talk about it and get it in record, so that there's a little bit more context around. This is somewhat messy, and I feel like they've caught right in between this summer 2021 change, and then they didn't have an existing structure. Okay, well, let's go try to do the variance, and then it's even we're learning as we go, like the hardship, the reasonable return on the hardship for this variance is like really, really high relative to some other paths that are out there that we can't actually use right now. So, and I think I've kind of covered what I wanted. I wanted to go over it as much as I could, so everybody kind of understands the tools we're using, the tools that we can't use, and we don't have one that permits us to work around this really high bar. And that's kind of all I wanted to add.
And I'll just clarify, you do mention tools, but there are ordinances, or the town laws, so we're kind of restricted to them. So in terms of the first undue hardship, I'm just going to take a quick sort of I won't say show of hands, but in terms of the undue hardship, that the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless the variance is granted. Do we believe that this particular undue hardship has been met? Tom, yes or no?
Nope.
Was that a no, Tom?
Nope.
Okay.
Am I breaking up? No.
No, you're good. You're good. Greg, yes or no?
No.
Yeah, I also say no, that this undue hardship has not been met. For completeness, I think we need to go through the remaining three. The next next item of undue hardship is that the need for a variance is due to the unique circumstances of the property and not to the general conditions of the neighborhood. Our applicants have indicated to this particular undue hardship, yes, due to the setback requirements from the lake front and side converging only to allow for a building lot that is 6 feet 6 inches wide. This 1/3 acre lot is typical to the neighborhood in size and dimensions. And they were designed to allow for a house to be easily built within the original setbacks. So in terms of this, where we say the need for variance is due to the unique circumstances of the property, really in the applicant's discussion on that, they're indicating that this type of lot actually is typical to their neighborhood. So this isn't really a unique property lot. And also looking at the lot documents that they provided to us, an aerial view. Certainly we've seen their property highlighted, but all the properties are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 of which I can see here are similar in size, one of which is currently a vacant lot. So I don't really see that the need for this variance is due to a unique circumstances based on the lot size itself, which is what the applicants are indicating. Although they also indicated that this lot size is also typical for the neighborhood. So it's, at least from my perspective, I do not believe that this level of undue hardship has been met as well, because I don't see that we're really with a unique situation here with regards to the property. But certainly Craig Dean or Tom Hennessy, your insight would be appreciated.
This is Tom. Having driven through the neighborhood area, they all seem to be small single-story cottages built, I'm guessing, between the 1940s and the maybe 70s or 80s at the latest. And looking at the tax map, the empty lots are typical of this particular same situation, where trying to get a piece of a building built after a 100-foot setback is probably the reason no one has built a new house in there in 20 or 30 years. Just my commentary.
Yeah, it doesn't seem particularly unique to the lot. It might be unique to the neighborhood, but my understanding is that we're looking at unique to the lot relative to the neighborhood. It doesn't seem to be unique from my perspective.
So looking at undue hardship, specifically the need for a variance is due to the unique circumstances of the property and not to the general conditions in the neighborhood. Tom Hennessy, do you believe that this level of undue hardship has been met?
No.
Greg Dean?
No.
David Marsh also in agreement that this level of hardship has not been met. Undue hardship item number 3, that the granting of a variance will not alter the essential character of the locality. The only thing I can say, just in terms of what is being proposed to be built, this certainly appears to be a larger sized residence, but in terms of altering the essential character of the locality, I would welcome any feedback the two of you may have in regards to that one. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to let you know what our applicants have stated. Yes, the existing character will not be altered as all of the existing homes reside much closer to the lake and to adjacent properties, as the original setbacks were less than the currently expanded setbacks. In addition, the neighborhood is changing from seasonal cottages to full-time residences, as many of the existing camps have been upgraded and expanded to accommodate year-round living. Our design intent is to create a house that fits within the current design characteristics of the existing cottages using building materials native to Maine. So Greg Dean, Tom Hennessy, any comments with regards to this level of hardship?
This is Tom. I guess, as I said earlier, most of the houses are built closer to the water. So that apparently was before 100-foot setback was put into place. And they're all pretty much single story, older cottages. As you said, this proposed structure is a much larger 2-story building, and it's would be, and if we said yes, a very close proximity to the right of way, which again adds, as Alex concerned, parking issues.
So I do agree that this would create sort of a unique property in terms of the building that's on it, but would granting the variance itself, would that be, you believe, altering the essential character of the locality though? I'm not sure how we look at character. I mean, if there are already year-round residences there, certainly that's not changing.
Having driven down there 2 weeks ago, it was Sarah who told me there's really only 2 around people living there, 2 different houses. So yeah, there are a couple, but.
Greg Dean.
Yeah, I think character is fairly subjective. I don't see the variance changing the character of anything that I can see. So I would go ahead and say it does meet this.
Okay. So in terms of undue hardship, item number 3, that the granting of a variance will not alter the essential character of the locality. Tom Hennessy, do you believe this level of undue hardship has been met?
I would vote no.
Greg Dean?
Yes.
I, David Murch, would also say yes. And our last level of undue hardship, that the hardship is not the result of action taken by the applicant or a prior owner. In the application, it was stated, yes, the hardship is not the result of our actions, but due to the expansion of the setbacks in recent years and a recent code change requiring an existing structure to be present on the lot in order to get standard setback reduction. So I would welcome any feedback on that one. I guess I'll say initially, I do understand our applicants and speaking towards the changing in the ordinances, but I don't know if changes in law are actually can be considered a hardship. So I just kind of put that out there, but Craig Dean or Tom Hennessy, anyone?
Yeah, I think I kind of feel like that's the exact definition of this hardship from my perspective is, you know, I think they probably applied for the setback reduction right around the time some externality changed the rules and caused them to have to come back to the table with this hardship. That's my thinking, at least. And I like, again, I think it's hard to, you know, it might be a little subjective what the causal nature of this hardship is, but I feel like having a material change in the setback reduction requirements is a substantial hardship that without that they wouldn't be here. So I do think that that's at least part of this, and that they certainly didn't, you know, unless they voted for or petitioned for the change in rules themselves, I don't see how they could be held accountable for that. So I tend to think that they have the hardship is not due to their actions because of that. Now, like,
Hennessy, have any thoughts? I'm just kind of reviewing some of our documents here.
I just have I guess a clarification question for Alex. When did the 100 feet from the water line come about in Raymond?
That's a good question. It may have been 92. It may have been earlier than that. Not exactly sure. I could look and find out, but just don't know.
Now, I had asked Sandy back last summer for a different reason, and she had told me that in the 1994 original edition. So I just was asking you if you knew something different.
Yeah, no, I mean that would make sense. There may have been an earlier version of shoreland zoning, or there likely was, but the current version we have was adopted in 94, and that's kind of what we have to go off of.
Okay, thanks.
I'm reading that manual, and it says in Maine, at least, the court's reason that there is no unnecessary hardship when the applicant created his or her own difficulty by acquiring land with knowledge of use limitations. So I guess that was a good point by Tom earlier, is if the property was acquired in 2000, were the setback reductions at that time in place, as well as, well, the setback variances, I believe, were in place, but the setback reduction was there. So I guess, Craig Dean, as you've mentioned, this is, you know, you're right, it kind of caught in a timing issue. I guess it was created by the town of Raymond itself, Roman voters, by voting that in. So I don't know how to look at that. I mean, it's a law that the town of Raymond voters wanted, so I don't know if that can be used as undue hardship, because that's a law change. But property was also purchased at the time of a different ordinances were in place. I don't know, Alex, I'm hemming and hawing on this. Do you have any or insight you'd want to share?
Not really. I know this is a tough one, and it always is. So I think I personally, I can see why you're conflicted, because they aren't necessarily responsible for the ordinance change. So, I mean, 2 years ago, had they come in with this, they probably could have gotten it under setback reduction. So,
Right.
not their fault.
I guess I look at this in terms of, yes, the ordinance has changed, but there was an avenue open to them through us to at least try to make a change in favor of their behalf. So so I'm going to take a vote on this one. So this undue hardship of the hardship is not the result of an action taken by the appellant or a prior owner. Has this hardship been met? I, David Murch, am going to say yes, this hardship has been met.
Greg Dean, I would say yes as well.
Tom Hennessy.
I'll say yes.
Okay. So in reviewing the shoreline ordinances in this particular section, says the strict application of these ordinance provisions would result in undue hardship, and the undue hardship means undue hardship shall mean, and we've gone through the 4 items, but through our initial voting, we've had item number 1, land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted. All 3 of us have agreed that this level of undue hardship has not been met, but the need for a variance is due to the unique circumstances of the property and not to the general conditions of the neighborhood. All 3 of us have agreed that this level of hardship has not been met. The granting of a variance will not alter the essential character of the locality. One of us has indicated this level of hardship has not been met. 2 of us have indicated it has been met. And finally, the hardship is not the result of an action taken by the applicant or a prior owner. All 3 of us have agreed that this level of undue hardship has been met. So keeping in mind that all 4 levels of hardship need to be met in terms of granting a setback variance, I believe we can take a motion at this point of, I forget how these should be proper. I think they need to be properly worded positively. The appeal for a setback variance is not allowed, is denied. How do I, help me out, guys? How am I supposed to?
How about the variance will not be granted?
Right. So is there a motion for us to not grant the variance for this application? Do I have a motion for that? There's not a motion. We'll rework. Somebody can rephrase it for me.
Sorry, it's so the motion to deny the appeal.
Yeah.
Is that what
Deny. I love the word deny. If somebody wants to make a motion, and
okay, I'll move to deny the appeal. I wasn't exactly sure what the wording should be. So
I wasn't sure either. That's why I was looking for you. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. So again, a roll call vote. Tom Hennessy, are you in favor of denying the variance request?
Yes.
Greg Dean, are you in favor of denying the variance request?
yes,
David Murch is also indicating yes to denying the variance request. So Matthew and Sarah, based on our ordinances and our review of the shoreline zoning provisions, as well as other legal documents, I'm afraid we're going to have to deny the request for the setback variances. Again, it doesn't prevent you from building. It just unfortunately results in a smaller building envelope. That's all. So, but thank you for bringing that to us.
Thank you for your time.
Good, thank you. So next on our agenda, board interview with Fred Miller. Fred, are you with us? I see a Fred. Hi, Fred. And you're on mute. Still got you on, still shows you're muted, Fred.
Good evening.
There we go.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So Fred, you have submitted an application to us, a volunteer application for the Zoning Board of Appeals. I've had a chance to review the application. I am sure the rest of our board members have as well. We had a chance to meet you at our last ZBA meeting, just informally for you being in the audience. But if you want to officially just introduce yourself to the board and let us know what led you to wanting to apply for the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Certainly. Again, my name is Fred Miller. I've lived in Raymond pretty much my entire life, other than away a couple of years after getting married. I went to school here in Raymond, all through school, Raymond and Wyndham. I have a business here. It's Miller Flooring. I also am the road manager for Thomas Monteris here. I've been, I think, going on 4 years, either 4 or 5 years. So dealing with Thomas Monteris here, I've had the opportunity to work with several of the code enforcement officers, including Alex, Chris, Scott, also with some the water districts out of our Standish area for some issues, dealing with the road here, and a lot with Nathan White also on different road situations. So doing some research, I came across that the town was looking for some help with a couple of different committees. So I actually thought about it for a while and thought that it would be something to broaden my horizon too, also on what I'm dealing with here on a day-to-day basis of being a road manager, and give me some, like I said, more insight about what you guys do and what's actually out there for laws.
Excellent. I appreciate the fact that you're willing to volunteer in the town. We joke about it. There's no pay to this, so it's all done based on people being willing to serve in the community. So I really appreciate that you're willing to do that.
I get involved with a lot of voluntary stuff. I don't know, it's a gratification for me to be able to help people and help with different things.
Good, thank you. A couple of things to just ask about. We do have meetings, which are always, when there's something on the agenda, it will be the last Tuesday of the month. And then site walks are the Saturday, 10 days prior to a meeting. And I'm pretty sure on either the application or somewhere, they say that these ZBA meetings only last an hour. That has typically not been my experience. They typically seem to run 90 minutes to 2 hours. I don't know if that's because I talk too much or what, but do either the site walks or the timings of the meetings or the length of time, is that restrictive to you at all? Is that something that you would be able to attend?
Yeah, I could attend them. I mean, again, where I own my own business, I have that flexibility, to be able to do stuff, during the day if it's needed. So.
Okay. And I know it's been asked of potential candidates as well in the past, as you saw tonight, and you sat in on that workshop a couple of weeks ago, or well, I guess a couple weeks ago, month ago, with the town attorney, clearly we have to follow our ordinances as best as we can. Sometimes that's open to interpretation. Again, as best we can, because we don't always have specifics, and those don't always lead to decisions that are, ones that go well, say for the applicant, and just, are you okay with putting yourself in a situation where potentially, it's situations of just coming to a decision that may not make everybody happy? Is that something that you're okay with doing?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you're following the rules and the law. So, I mean, it's not what your personal feelings is. It's what you have to work with. Exactly, as you guys were talking about earlier. And the same again, like I was at that meeting when the lawyer was there, and I learned a lot about that I didn't really think about being part of what you guys really do. I mean, you got to take your emotions out of that and put, what is available for you to work with.
Yep.
For the right tools, and I can understand where your emotions can kind of get into there a little bit. And I think you have to be able to cut them off and put them aside and go with, what you really have to do. And I understand that.
So Greg Dean or Tom Hennessy, do you have any questions or comments for Fred?
Yeah, I think I have a pretty favorable opinion of Fred already after sitting through the lengthy session with the lawyer. And I mean, you figured out the mute button. I mean, it's all looking good from my perspective. So no real questions. Good to see that you've been volunteering in your community and other facets. So I think, thank you for volunteering for the ZBA.
You're welcome. Thank you.
This is Tom. I guess my only comment is, after withstanding 2 meetings, we haven't scared you off, and you said all the right words about, knowing what a code enforcement officer is, and I think you're already ahead of the game. So,
Thank you.
So, yeah. So I will go ahead and make a motion that we approve Frederick S. Miller Sr.'s application for the ZBA board, that we recommend him for approval. And
I'll second.
so we'll have to do all in favor of that. Tom Hennessy, yes or no?
In favor.
Greg Dean,
In favor.
David Murch in favor as well. So Fred, I think Sandy may be in touch with you, but I believe the next steps are your application with our recommendation gets sent to the select board. And then I believe the select board at their next meeting that they're available to would then sort of have their own interview with you. And then they would make the final decision as to whether or not you would be on the board.
Okay.
That is absolutely correct, David. So yeah, I will get this to Sue Look tomorrow. And when she tells me when it's on the select board agenda, I will be in touch with you, Fred.
Okay. And I can either do Zoom or in person. So.
Yeah, I think they're doing via Zoom
Okay.
now as well, but I'll let you know that as well at the time.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you,
Thank you,
again,
and
Fred, for volunteering. It's greatly appreciated.
I will come
exactly.
to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Nice to know we'll have another member.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yes,
again.
Definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. One quick item, which is not in our agenda, but we are doing a Zoom meeting tonight. Seems wise to discuss Zoom meetings and what that looks like for the near future. Sandy, do you have any additional feedback for us outside of what came from Sue Look and saying that the Board of Selectmen is doing Zoom only for now, and the Raymond office is, I don't know, feedback?
Yeah, we're back to having everybody that comes in the office wear a mask. And all the boards that I know of, the select board, planning board, and they've gone to just Zoom for now. Probably through the winter, possibly longer, because who knows how many more variants we're gonna have. So it kind of makes sense, I think, for this board to go this way as well.
Yeah,
I mean, personally, I'm gonna have to be on Zoom for a few meetings. Because I get a hip replacement on February 7th.
David, would you, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but would you entertain a motion now to meet with remotely through Zoom until we change that again?
yeah. I get one quick question for Sandy. You said the other boards are doing it for now. What is their trigger to reconsider that?
Oh, just until we see what changes. So it's kind of it's a for now, but indefinite at this point.
Okay.
So yeah, until something else changes and the boards make different votes, they're gonna continue.
Okay. Is this something we need to like make a motion and vote on, or can we just informally say, yeah, let's just go Zoom for now until things change or something triggers and we decide to make a change? Does anybody know?
Alex, I don't think the planning board did it by a motion, right? They just said, let's do Zoom. So yeah, I'm sure as long as you guys all agree, that's all we need to know.
Yeah. I'm
Is
good.
that-
Moving forward with Zoom.
So we'll vote without a motion. I like.
I'm good with Zooming.
Yeah. All right. So we'll informally say Zoom only for now, and then at some meeting or conversation.
Right, when
We'll
I
see.
hear of anything that changes and other boards are gonna change, I'll definitely fill you in.
Okay. So Fred, we'll be optimistic that you will be on the board in the near future. So just
Okay.
be aware that we'll be doing Zoom meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And next to last on our agenda, Code Enforcement Officer Communications. To you, Alex.
Yeah. One thing I did want to share though on that last or the appeal, I'll reach out to the Hollands just to let them know. I do believe I told them this in August. If they were to try and pursue a real estate attorney to try and investigate the status of that right, they may find it's an old subdivision. I'm not sure. They're
Anybody
next.
else having issues with Alex's audio? Sorry to interrupt you, Alex.
Yeah, no, it's broken up on mine too.
Okay,
Yep,
sorry.
too.
Yeah, it kind of comes in and then it goes out, in and out.
Maybe
You
I'm
might be
too far
moving.
away.
Yeah, I think you're moving. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I had mentioned to them originally, which is now their next and only step, I think, to try and explore this, would be to see if they can find out if the road is still owned by anyone, or if it has just been, if it's a right of way and the the ownership of the actual right of way is actually by the property owners on each side of the road to the center line. They may actually own the land under the right of way, which may allow them to do a 10-foot setback from the front instead of the 30-foot setback without needing a variance because of that funky thing in the ordinance. If that were the case, then that would open up the building envelope for them, and they could get a building permit to, as long as they meet all the other things, to put a structure on, a single family on the lot. And then if the setback reduction doesn't go away, for example, stays as is, they may be able to come in and actually apply for a setback reduction from the side to build that deck like they wanted to. So that's really their only option, I think, at this point. I'll probably reach out to him and let him know that, or remind him that that's something he may want to just look into. It's a long shot, but it is a glimmer of hope, I think, if they want to try to, pursue that further.
Sure. Yep.
Would that setback variance that we were considering adding? I mean, you mentioned it this summer when you changed the ordinances. Yeah. Will that also help them, or was I way off on terms of?
Well, that's where I was headed next. The planning board The planning board has been reviewing the ordinance amendments for this year, and a couple of them were prompted by you guys. The first one, the big one, is possibly striking out the setback reduction language from our ordinances, from land use and shoreline zoning provisions. A big change. I kind of presented that to them at their January meeting, and they were, I guess, neutral on it, and basically said, if that's going to help clear up things for the ZBA, then let's at least put it on. They likely will not make a recommendation. So for the warrants, they'll always either say, the planning board recommends or does not recommend when it goes to the select board of the town for vote. In this situation, they're probably not going to make any recommendation because they kind of felt that, it doesn't really affect them much. It really affects you guys. So they're not thinking of making a recommendation. But that will probably go forward. One of the things the attorney and I have been talking about is where the land use ordinance does have that second variance for a single family home, very similar to what these guys are trying to do. Just coming in and get a variance to those single family home. You can go down to, or you can reduce the setback by 20%. So you can't do 50% or more. It's got to be 20%. You still have to meet hardship criteria, but you don't have to meet the criteria, the big one, which is the property can still yield a reasonable return. The problem is you do still need to meet pretty much all of the other hardship criteria. And I believe you actually voted that you didn't feel it met a couple of those tonight. So I don't know, even if that does get put into the shoreline zoning provisions in June, I don't know that they would be able to get a variance because, I think one of them is still characteristics of the neighborhood, for example, stuff like that. So it's basically just removing that one, bullet from the criteria, which does make it easier. Like you said, it is an easier version of a variance, but it's just for a single family home, for someone to come in and build a house. So I think it does make sense to put that in the shoreline zoning provisions because it is in the land use ordinance. And if we're going to get rid of the setback reductions, it does create another option for people. And then, like you guys had discussed, we'll put something in there to make it clear that the two sections are different and not to be reviewed together and go with that. And then other than that, they are reviewing the outdoor sales and service item, which we ran into for that conditional use. It sounds like they're in favor of updating that to allow that specific conditional use to be done outdoors. We discussed that here of is it, for items for outdoor use inside a building, because if that's the case, then it meets conditional uses. But if it's truly outside, then it doesn't meet that conditional use requirement, which it has to be done inside of a building. So it sounds like we're going to put that forward at the planning board level to change the conditional use standards to say that the restriction that it needs to be in a building doesn't apply for outdoor sales and service, which we'll then also define in the ordinance because there was no definition. So those things are all happening. We have another workshop Thursday night with the planning board to discuss the ordinance amendments. We're up to nine amendments, which really is much more than nine because there's quite a few that are lumped together. But the plan right now, I believe, Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're planning on doing a public hearing in March on these.
Yeah, this one, the one Thursday night is to allow public comment, but we're not doing the public hearing yet. That's supposed to be then for March.
Yeah.
I guess depending how everything goes in the next workshops.
So what's the difference between public comment and public hearing?
Really nothing. A public hearing we're required to do, and there's notification that's required. We have to post it in the newspaper and all that fun stuff. Public comment was really just to make it clear that we're accepting comments from the public at this point. If there's anything that people have seen or have thoughts That's pretty much it though. You guys will have Sandy, we did get that appeal, that administrative appeal, right?
Yes, and I
And that's
believe I already
gone out?
sent that out to you guys. Yeah, because I put in the memo how bizarre it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's a
So
little different.
basically, yeah, we'll have a meeting next month for that appeal that you guys are literally going to bring it up and table it. So that'll make up for some of the time tonight. You get that
And there-
time back next meeting.
Hey,
Can we just
Sandy,
table it right now?
a quick question. Hey, Sandy, will we see a copy of Alex's NOV before the next meeting?
Yeah, we can get that out to you guys.
Yeah, I can send that out in an email.
Yeah,
Thank
just
you.
remind me, Sandy, to send that to you tomorrow. Actually, yeah, I'll send it to you tomorrow. You weren't copied on the emails for that. So it's actually,
I can do it,
Well,
Alex,
yeah.
that's fine.
we'll get it to you tomorrow. And the reason for that, I think they explained it in there, but essentially the town has agreed to work with them on kind of a mediation. You know, we're talking with them about what we want in the remediation plan, and they are willing to work with us on, you know, what we want done, but they don't want to lose their right to appeal. Because obviously if, you know, the conversation goes south, likely it'll end up going to court. So they're going to probably want to appeal to you guys before it goes to court. So that's kind of why that happens.
Right, because if they didn't appeal it by the 18th, they would have lost that
right.
opportunity.
So that's that. That's pretty much all I have.
Sandy, is there anything other than this appeal which we'll need to table? Is there anything else coming up next month?
Nope, nothing else came in, so that's why I say you'll get back a lot of tonight's time on the
Very well.
22nd, I believe, is the meeting.
Okay, Greg or Tom, anything else for tonight?
I'll just let you know that I'll be zooming in no matter what next month. So,
You and me both, Tom.
and I'm hoping there's no site walk next month.
There won't
can't
be because it's an administrative appeal.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so I will make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All right, in favor, Greg Dean.
In favor?
Oh, favor,
Hennessy,
in
Jake
favor.
March in favor. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Yep.
Good evening. This is a workshop for the Town of Raymond Planning Board on Thursday, January 27th, 2022. It is not an official meeting, therefore we're not going to go through the roll call or the quorum or the opening remarks. There will be a little banner up for anyone that is interested in the ordinances that are being reviewed. And we certainly would like your comments if you have any or questions while we go through this. Other than that, I think reduction of minimum setbacks is the first one, Alex. Are you up on that one?
Yeah, I can start with that.
Okay.
So you guys should have the updated document I sent over this afternoon that's highlighted with changes from last time.
Is that on the email?
Yep, it's in the email that I had sent earlier today.
Yeah.
Give you a sec to pull that up if you don't have it. I can screen share too if you guys want, like I did last time, if that's helpful or not. I don't know, it's tough with all the text.
That would probably be good though, so people that are watching could see it too.
Yep. Sandy, can you make me host again for a minute so I can change that?
Yeah, Alex, because I did not get it.
You didn't get the email this afternoon?
Nope. If it came from you?
Yeah, that's what he was talking about a few minutes ago when he said the reminder, because I just said just a reminder the meeting's tonight at 6.
Well, let's see if it's up. You're in my spam.
Well, that's not good, Kevin. You're going to spam. That's all right.
Well, that's Bob's spam, not our spam.
Yeah, I guess he's got a really good filter.
So I'll report you as not spam.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I think the term Kevin uses is whitelist me. You want to whitelist me.
Whitelist.
So, did you make me a host, Sandy? Looks like you're muted.
She's got a bunch of stuff in spam. Okay.
I'm trying to find where I do that from, Alex. It's the 3 dots, right?
Yep, just hover over me and the 3 dots will pop up, and then if you click those, there should be an option to make me a host.
Yep, there it is. I knew it had something to do with the 3 dots. And there you go. You got it.
All right. All right, so I will share. All right, so this is the updated version I sent out today. And we do have David Murch, the chair of the ZBA, here as well. So if we want to hear from him, it looks like he is available. But so I did talk with the town attorney on this proposed change, and one thing that he suggested doing was taking the land use ordinance variance process for a single family dwelling with reduced hardship criteria and actually applying that to the shoreland zone. So what I've changed in this document from last time is 2 things. We've added that to the shoreland, but we've also added this section here, which is, you'll see it accepts Article 6B 1C, which is the other section, which really all it is, I think I explained last time, is it has one less bullet point you need to meet for hardship. It's supposed to make it easier for a single family dwelling. So I put that in here, and I did send this off to the attorney to look at once I've kind of updated these changes, and I haven't heard back from him yet, but that's kind of where we're at on this.
Okay.
So I don't think we really need any feedback on that one, because you guys said last time that it didn't really apply to you much, so it didn't really matter as long as the attorney was okay with the changes, and we would put it on without a recommendation, if I recall correctly.
That was it. That's let's go.
David, well, actually, Bob, since we're allowing public comment, I don't know who we have here, but David, is there anything that you want to add to that? I know I haven't sent you this most recent change that included your other catch, the change to 1B, but I didn't know if there's anything else you wanted to add.
No, from what I'm seeing here, it looks good and would be beneficial to us on the ZBA.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
So next was the solar. And we talked about adding something in the first paragraph so that it was clear that all solar energy systems need to be reviewed, but they don't all need site plan review by the planning board. So I added this, which we can still change. It was just kind of a quick addition to that last sentence, which I don't even think Jim's seen that one yet. And then we also had some comments from the fire chief and fire inspector, and Wayne is here if he wants to comment on that, but we added in some text based on his input.
It was clarification on that process, and just letting folks know that that water supply issue would be one of the items that we would look at based on the project. So that's what the chief and I came up with language for that section.
And I think that was the rest of the changes for that section. If I remember correctly. Yeah. Did you guys have anything else that you have seen in that or thoughts on that? All right. You want me to move on to the next one, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. So
Sorry, I
the
was
next,
reading.
yeah, that's fine. The next one was the one that had two options originally, and I've gotten rid of that second. Well, got rid of the first option and left it with the second option. And Wayne did have a comment, and Wayne, I changed it a little bit. I actually just changed it to all conditional use applications shall be reviewed. All of the conditional uses in most situations, I'm pretty sure all of the situations, would require some type of site plan application. I'm not sure though if they all would. So I think it makes sense to just put in as part of the conditional use process, because this goes through ZBA, it doesn't come through you guys. That the fire department has the ability to, I guess, provide comment at least on this, because the ZBA is making a finding that it's not going to overburden those services, but without really checking in with the fire department, how do we know?
Okay.
And that's it for that one. This was the changes to definitions for structure.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the comments last time was how we handle corner lots. So I did take a stab at adding some language to lot frontage based on the attorney's opinion in 2020, because I did run into this issue in 2020. Yeah, 2020. And there's a section in the ordinance that applies in the commercial zone, and it is the text that I've added down here with the red underline. That's in the ordinance already. So all I did was take that and add it to this. And if anyone has any other thoughts or ideas, I know I mentioned it last time, but some towns use the front line is where your driveway, whichever road that your driveway is on for a corner lot. But since this is already in the ordinance, I just took it and put it into this. And then the only other change that I've made on this one so far is I did add to boundary walls 4 feet or less in height, because that was something I picked up at the last meeting as well. Any thoughts on those? Or
yeah, Alex, I had a question on the lot frontage, and this is more of a code enforcement, I guess, jurisdiction. But if you have a lot and say it happens from time to time where you have a lot that, I don't know, it's horseshoe shaped, or so it has two different segments on a road, or a segment on one road and a segment on another road. Do you combine that lot frontage to determine the total lot frontage, or in the case of a corner lot, would you only measure it on the more traveled lot?
for frontage, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe there is something somewhere in here that refers to it as a lot line, not lines. Yeah, if you look at this definition, it uses line and not lines anywhere. So one thing that I've heard used in that situation is, that's singular. So it should be calculated as one line. But I think it might make sense. I think where you're headed with this is, do we expand upon that now while we've got this cut open?
Right.
And put something in there on that. I think that's a great idea.
So Alex, I'm just kind of looking at this and thinking where the driveway is, that's typically where we're gonna, or how we're gonna address it. Like 48, whatever the name of the road is gonna be where the driveway is. And I'm just a little concerned about an emergency call if we're considering the front of the property on the other road. I just hope it doesn't cause confusion.
No, that's a good point.
I think for 911, they typically go to the side that where the front door is facing or where the driveway is facing. But we have circumstances, and I've seen it before, where we have frontage on one road, but we might have an access easement through another property or through another road because it's just easier to gain access to the lot that way. So, but I think 911 and access and numbering is different than determining lot frontage.
Yeah, and I'll actually use an example. We met with someone today in the office that's looking to buy some land from someone on Egypt Road, I believe, and the lot would be pretty large, and they would actually use Egypt Road as their frontage, but they would access where they would build the house through a common shared driveway. So Egypt Road would be their frontage, and their address would actually have a different road name because they would be using a shared common driveway, kind of like almost like a back lot, but not really. And so that would be a situation where if you use the line where the driveway would be, it would make things a little weird. It wouldn't be as clean, I guess you could say.
Okay, makes sense.
But for E911, they're still going to use that driveway. E911 doesn't really care where the front of the lot is. They just really care where the driveway is.
Yeah, I think that makes sense now. Thanks.
Okay, so Jim, we can look at that and possibly expand on the line versus lines thing. I think that's a good point.
It happens from time to time, and when it does, we kind of all go, "Oh, we should have looked at this differently." So we've got it open. We can consider it now. So
like on a hammerhead, that comes up a lot.
Yep, exactly.
Do you count all the edges? This one we've already done. It was an easy one.
Can I just for a sec, David Mertz? I can't figure out how to raise my hand here, so I apologize. I just know that from a ZBA perspective, we get a lot of setback requests, and who's going to determine like the front? I recognize that the corner lots, it's going to be whichever is the most heavily traveled, but what if there's some debate about that? It's going to eventually come to us, and they can get more of a setback from one direction than the other. I guess ultimately who makes the decision as what's the front, what's the sides, or if it changes over time. What if one road becomes busier than the other? 5 years ago it was one road A, and now 5 years later is road B.
Good question.
I would normally, I defer to the code officer to make that determination, and then that sets, and then I'm serious, but I mean, whether he defers to me, but it's ultimately, his interpretation first, and then if somebody wants to appeal it, obviously they can do that. But I think most of the time it's pretty black and white. I don't think we have too many cases where, because usually it's a private road off a public road. Obviously the public road is the one there. If you're on a major route 302 or a major route, that's pretty clear. It doesn't happen too often, occasionally, I guess, but it's pretty limited when we have two, I'll call them public roads of the same size and intensity, I guess. But
well, I can think of an example. And David, thank you. You always catch these ones. And it is a good point. Rolling Brook. I could see, you know, for example, that subdivision, you have Rolling Brook Road and then you have Bracken Woods, and there are two corner lots. And I guess the question would be which lot is heavier, you know, more heavily traveled. And I would say Rolling Brook is, because it has more houses on it, I think, I'm pretty sure. That may be the way you look at it, is just the density of the road compared to Bracken Woods, which is kind of the dead end. But that is a good question. I think it probably, in most situations, would end up being the code officer opinion determination. And then if an applicant doesn't agree, then maybe it would be, you know, an administrative appeal to the ZBA. But I think that would come up in variances. That would probably be, you know, if the side setback is less strict than the front setback, which most, all of them are, it might make sense for them to want to say, oh, that's a sideline and not a front line. When really it's not.
So I wonder if Department of Transportation has any good data on that sort of thing.
Probably not on local roads, on like subdivision roads like this, but maybe on more connector roads they would.
But I guess both Alex, Jim, and David, if both meet the road requirements on both sides, why do we really care?
Well, it's about the front setback, I think, is what the issue starts coming from.
Right, I understand, but then it would just be whatever really the homeowner wanted.
Yeah.
If both frontages are meet the requirement, then whenever the building permit comes in, it can be the homeowner that says, this is what I want to be my front, and this is what I want my side.
Yeah, if it's too close to tell, basically, you're saying they could kind of have their pick and which one they want.
Right, and if it's not too close to tell, then it has to be the one that has the road frontage.
Yeah, and most of the time, this is probably going to come up with new subdivisions where we have two roads. So I'm just wondering, I mean, typically on subdivision plans, the setbacks are established on the plan.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so the next thing, yes, was an easy one. We have already gone through that one. All right, this one we do need to kind of have, I think, a little bit more discussion on. So this is Article 4, and
Alex, before you go, do we need to go back there? Do we need to put a sentence in there that basically gives the code enforcement officer the authority to pick when both?
Yeah, I mean, we could put something in like that. Yeah,
I think that would take care of the issue.
Yeah, and maybe we do something like code officer or review authority or whatever, because it might be something where it's a planning board application for a subdivision or something.
Right.
Okay, yeah, we can add that.
Okay.
So Article 4.
Can I just ask another question on that? I'm still thinking that over. And so the logic for the setbacks is what? Is it for safety? Because you're saying it's on the road? What's the logic? Why wouldn't both sides that are on a road be a road? I mean, why would they be the same setbacks?
Yeah, where this gets wonky, Kevin, is when we have backlot driveways or private roads that come off a main road. You're basically, somebody's got a lot of background noise there.
Yeah.
What happens is that the private road, then when somebody puts in a private road, we've had several of these happen where they put in a private road, and if you take the front yard setback, it basically makes the corner lot non-conforming if there's an existing house, for one thing, but it also kind of penalizes the front owner if they are conforming. You know, say that they had a lot there and then a private road comes in, it kind of penalizes them for somebody else's development where, you know, it might be 3 lots in there. Big deal. And I don't know what the actual purpose of the front lots is, other than probably just to get these buildings back for public safety purposes, and for visual aesthetics.
No, that doesn't, I mean, that's kind of, not understanding that, there's no real, I like to have the logic of why we
Obviously,
have
first and
different
foremost,
setbacks.
First and foremost, it's public safety. So when people pull off the main road, they can pull into their driveway. And if there was no setbacks, they couldn't pull their car off safely. So the idea is to leave room for driveways and things.
But any road would be safety. I mean, so it's like, 3 people that we don't care if they're not safe, but it's 20 people we care if they're safe. I don't, that's
Well,
not
it's the
good
number of
logic.
trips. It's the situation you're putting somebody in, because you got a lot of traffic going through. For instance, take like the one we did for up off Raymond Hill. There was that wonky backlot driveway. It ended up being a private road. I forgot the name of that one. But in that situation, you've got Raymond Hill Road, which is much busier than this private road. Well, to your point, maybe it should be just the site that the driveway comes off should be the front lot, because that's what we're concerned about, being able to get the vehicles off the road safely so they're not sticking out in the right of way.
That's what I'm looking for. Yes, something like that. That would be more logical.
Good point.
And another point for that would be the driveway generally is where the E911 address would be, for us to be able to see that.
So Kevin, what are you thinking that it should be?
Well, I think the frontage should be where they want to put the driveway.
Well,
Right,
we got
okay.
two different things. We got two different things. We have lot frontage, and then we have front setback.
Right.
They're two different things. So lot frontage is, they need a certain amount of frontage on a public way to become a conforming lot. The front setback, maybe you could say it comes off the side where the driveway is located.
So why do they, okay, so what determines that? Again, it should be, if they're going to put a driveway in, that should be the side that should have sufficient clearance, the frontage, to be a conforming lot, in my
It
mind.
doesn't always work that way. You end up with people who are on corner lots, and there's just weird configurations where they might have 50 feet on a side lot, and maybe a corner lot, and they're an L-shaped, flag-shaped lot, where they get the benefit of being on 2 road frontages just to make themselves conforming.
Well, maybe we should have something then to say that we need X amount of feet on a public way to have a road in, and that should be, if they conform to that, that's fine.
I think we might be digging a little too deep into this, but
Well,
maybe.
The road frontage and then the front setback would correspond, right? So wherever the road frontage is met, that becomes the front with the
Yes.
front setback.
Yes,
You know,
yep,
Right? So if you have the road frontage met on 2 sides, then you get to pick your side. But you still have a front setback on the side that you're calling your front. Am I missing something?
Well, I thought we were trying to make it, it's a safety issue. So as long as they have, the front of the lot becomes where the road goes in, and then that has to have the enough setback and distance to be safe.
Right, I see. So so what you're saying is the driveway has to be on the front of the house, on the front setback. But you
If it
couldn't really, right?
If it qualifies, right, it has to be
Yeah.
on a qualifying safe side.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's what it says.
Well, yeah, but it appears to be, if you had enough frontage on one side and you didn't have enough frontage on another side, the lot would be qualifying. You could still put your driveway on the unqualified side, just as long as you're measuring the setbacks, which doesn't make it safe.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it sounds like we're back to having the frontage, both the frontage and the front setback be on the same line as where the driveway goes in.
Correct.
Is that what you mean, Kevin?
I think that makes it more logical and safe.
I can tell you in Casco, that's how our ordinance was written. I didn't have any issues with it. Occasionally, you'd have some funky situations arise, but you know, it worked okay there.
Yeah,
I mean,
so in that case, in the scenario we're working with, then a corner lot would just have two frontages, two front setbacks.
It's also
Only the one
got-
that the one they choose, if it qualifies, would become the front setback.
Yeah, but if it didn't, if they have to use both, then they have to use the front setback from both.
Right.
I would say that only the one that they're gonna put their driveway on.
But let's
That one
say it's just say this scenario, say the road frontage requirement's 200 feet, and they have 150 feet on one road and 50 feet on another road, so they have 200 feet of road frontage, but they don't have one dominant, they don't have all of it on one road or the other. In that case, they'd have to have the front yard setback off
Oh,
both
that's
roads.
interesting.
Yes, but what's the distance that we're gonna say is safe to put a
It'd be the front
driveway on?
yard setback, it'd be the front yard setback.
No, in length also. There's no length.
No, you measure.
Yeah,
the entire length.
we have a minimum frontage requirement for each zone. You know, so like 225, 300 feet. I mean, I think personally, if I had to have, my preference would be to have it be a single lot line so that you don't end up with short corners and stuff like that. That way you have to have 225 feet on a single line, point to point, in order to have a legal lot with frontage instead of having, jogs and turns and stuff like that. It just makes it a little bit messier, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think having a corner lot where the example Jim just stated, where you have 150 feet on one line and then 90-degree angle following the other road, 50 feet, to me, they don't have enough frontage. To me, they need that 200 feet that goes as a straight line on one side or the other.
I don't, I do a lot of plan development. I don't necessarily agree with that because we have a lot of roads with curves on them. And we always use the curved frontage on those lots for the lot line. They're long curves. I mean, they're just slight bends, but they're still curved. They're not a straight line.
Well, I think that I misspoke. I didn't mean it has to be a perfectly straight line, but it has to be a line that is abutting one road.
You mean
rather than being able to.
A continuous line, basically.
Kevin, does
Yeah,
that make more sense?
It's
Yeah, that
currently in
makes
there.
sense.
Right now, it's currently in there.
Yeah.
Here it says irregular or curved front lot line, the distance along an imaginary straight line connecting the two ends.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yep.
I almost think that, the way we have it, we probably should just leave it in that red section. We probably should just take out because it seems to be making more confusion than not. So basically, if you're on a corner lot, to me, if you're on a corner lot, the easiest way for Alex to handle this is just say both, you got to take the front setback off of both roads.
And we can do that. Some towns do that. Then we probably would need to find where it says this in the ordinance and strike it out and change it to requiring the front setback on both, unless we want to keep that just for the commercial zone, our commercial district, so that they don't have to meet the front on the side, because the intent with the commercial district is smaller lots with no setbacks, which I don't even think we have a front setback. So it might not really be a big deal, but
We go in the commercial zone.
yeah, so I don't know why it's somewhere in the commercial district standards, I believe, from what I can remember Phil saying, but I can look at that and we'll figure something out.
Right.
All right,
Right,
so
move
we'll
on.
we'll work on that one a little. Okay, so yeah, we're back to Article 4 again. So this is the one where we need to decide of the new uses we've created where you want to allow them. And do we want to make either of them conditional uses or just have them be permitted uses through the planning board?
I would think the one in the shoreline zone that we might want to make conditional is solar energy systems, just because the amount of clearing they take on a lot is pretty massive.
So the way it works in the shoreland zone, that's the table. And I don't believe we have it set up for conditional uses.
You have no.
It's all
for
planning
solar
board.
Oh, planning board. But it goes to planning board.
Right.
They don't have conditional uses in the shoreline zone, right, for uses?
As far as I know off the top of my head, I just know this is the way it's set up.
Yep, no, then I would say keep it in planning board. And that way they can determine all the factors that go into the clearing and everything, because they still have to fall, right? If they put a solar system in the shoreline zone, they still have to fall under the same categories as cleared lands and impervious surfaces and all that.
Yeah, it would still need to meet the requirements of the district. So yeah, you would still need to follow that.
That in itself is going to make it difficult unless somebody has a really massive shoreline zoning lot.
Yeah, right, exactly. So village residential, and what I did is I just put them both in all of them. And if there are some where you guys don't want to allow, we can take them out. Or if you want to make outdoor storage not allowed, because one of the things we talked about last time was defining outdoor storage, which is different than outdoor sales and service. Outdoor storage we could define and not actually allow anywhere, just to have a definition.
Have we defined it?
There is a definition later on, yeah.
Okay. Why don't we?
Shouldn't that be?
Or you,
Okay.
Yeah, my thought was that should be in the commercial and industrial zones. I don't know if it belongs in a residential zone, but there again, I don't know, if somebody's got an automotive shop or something in the residential zone, or I don't know if they got a small motor shop. I mean, is that allowed in the residential zone? I can't.
no, I don't think it is.
So to me, the outdoor storage should be really, to me, ideally should be in the industrial and commercial zones.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that.
that makes sense.
Okay. And solar energy systems for rural and village residential.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see.
That's okay.
Yep.
Okay. So that's those two. And then we have rural residential.
Yep.
Same thing, we'll strike out outdoor storage.
Yep.
And then commercial.
Yep, allow both.
Do you want to allow both, or do you want to put outdoor storage as a conditional use?
Oh, that could be up to the board. What do we have now? We have outdoor sales and service, right, as conditional use?
Yep.
It kind of goes with that to a certain extent, so maybe it should be a conditional use.
Yep.
I agree.
So how is outdoor storage defined? I mean, what does it allow?
Well, we'll get there. I can scroll down right now if you want. I believe it's the last one.
7. Number 7.
Is it 7? Okay.
Yeah, 7.
Right here. Since last time I've added the words "the commercial" and "for a fee," because one of the things you guys really didn't like last time was having it be a definition that would apply to residential properties or residential storage of stuff for personal use, which is of course wasn't the intent. The intent was for it to be a commercial outdoor storage for money. So that's all I did on that.
So how do we keep it from being like super junky or like way too much stuff?
Well, I think if you get into motor vehicles, Alice can answer that. I think there's a limitation on motor vehicles before it becomes a junkyard. So
yeah, if they're storing vehicles, boats, RVs, they need to essentially, they can't be they must be registered, they must be inspected, and they can't be beyond repair essentially. And there is a definition through the state that we have in our ordinance that would apply to that. I think you're right. It could get a little difficult. The lines could be blurred between outdoor storage and junkyard.
But remember, if we're allowing outdoor storage, it's going to be a conditional use, and with that, you can put provisions on how to, conceal that or buffer that from public view too, depending on where the
Yes.
use is.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like we need to have something where we could protect exactly what Jim just said, protect the view.
Well, that would fall under when you review it for conditional use.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would go through conditional use and then it would need site plan approval as well because it's a non-residential use. So, at that point, all the site plan conditions would still apply, site plan criteria.
Okay.
So Alex, this is again where we would treat this like we are with the outdoor sales
Yes.
as far as the review process. Okay.
Yep. Which would be, that's where you guys would have your ability to chime in because it would go through site plan like any other application. The fire department would weigh in on the application.
And the other,
you would in the conditional use approval process as well.
and my other question is, I know the board had talked a little bit about containers. Is this going to be a permitted item in this outdoor storage area?
We have a shipping container section already, and I believe they are allowed it might be industrial only. Can't remember. Shipping containers, not permitted in a residential zoning district. It's subject to site plan review. I mean, I don't know. I don't think, just based on the definition that we have, I don't know that I would necessarily say that could include shipping containers, but I suppose
We haven't excluded them either.
yeah, that's a good point. Might be a good idea to do something like that.
Just if I could chime in from a ZBA perspective, I see temporary structures, so I would I would look at that as a shipping container.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So does a shipping container become not a shipping container if it has a permanent foundation?
Yeah, there's actually a provision on the shipping containers that a property owner may apply for a shipping container permit to temporarily locate a single shipping container on the lot in a residential zoning district for a period not to exceed 6 months.
Well, I guess my question is, if you put it on a permanent foundation, is it then not considered a shipping container?
You mean,
So if somebody builds a shop or something and it has all the siding and it looks just like a shipping container, but it's on a permanent foundation, if it's structurally,
yeah,
getting at, if somebody puts a shipping container, makes it permanent, does that not fall under those regulations?
like foundation, I would think it would be an accessory structure at that point.
Yeah, but then it becomes a small home.
No,
Because they are doing that now. That's kind of where I'm getting
Well, I mean,
at
it could be
Oh.
well, if it comes a home, it has to be in a whole bunch of different buildings.
Right.
But if it's an accessory structure, though, it has a door and it's a shed, how do we control that? I mean, somebody could build a box for a shed too, so. I
Right.
mean, once it's on the foundation, it's a structure. Luckily, we haven't had a lot of applications yet for container buildings, but I have personally worked on one. So
You have worked on one?
yeah, it was out on an island, and the gentleman made it into an art studio.
Oh,
He'd been better off if he stick built it, because what it cost to put it in was pretty amazing.
Wow.
It was just getting it to the island and then getting it up a hill and moving it in place and getting it on a foundation. It was a lot of work.
all right. So where are we? We're okay with the definition. We're okay with where we're putting them.
Yeah, and I have to, Alex, I like the additions you added to the outdoor storage for commercial and for fee. I think that really kind of channels it down to what we were looking for before.
All right, good. Yeah, I think that is pretty much it. We talked about shoreland. Obviously, we probably don't want to allow outdoor storage in the shoreland.
Well, we gotta be careful. What, what do you do with marinas or boat sales?
Well, it would be considered a marina. The marina definition does include storage of boats and trailers. So, and that's how this all came about, was because a marina wanted to expand into the commercial zone, and they couldn't. It wasn't allowed.
So if it's marine related, then it falls in the marina?
Yeah.
I don't think we have many scenarios of that happening anyway. I think the only other one we have, Alex, that we are still waiting on for Phil is where and how do we put the view shed scenic vista guidelines together into the ordinance, and we're waiting on him for that, right?
Yeah, I did ask how that's going to work, or what he thinks. Did I copy you? I think I copied you on the email. Did I not? Maybe I didn't.
No,
So I basically asked what he suggests, what other towns are doing, how our guidelines should be amended, or if we could create new guidelines. I just basically asked what his thoughts were on that, and what he suggests we do. So I haven't heard back yet. I got his automatic reply that he was tied up with something, so I'm assuming I'll probably hear back tomorrow or early next week.
Did you forward that packet of guidelines to him, or?
I don't think I did. I basically led on that there is a packet that we want to essentially use, but I didn't send it yet because I didn't want him to get too into the weeds before he got back to me, and didn't want him to take too much time on it, to be honest.
Okay.
Just yet.
No, that's fine. But the sign guidelines fall into that same category. I don't know if we ever did anything officially other than say we're going to use it.
right, and that's the problem with the guidelines. There are things in the guidelines that our ordinance supersedes. You know, there's things in there about parking lots and pedestrian connectivity, but our ordinance already supersedes. Signs is another one. We have a sign ordinance, but there are recommendations in there for how we want signs to look. So, you know, I mean, these guidelines are what now? They're getting upwards of 20 years old. So maybe it's, you know, maybe to your point, Bob, maybe it's just time for a good old overhaul of the guidelines.
Well, they don't really go through any process that I can remember.
No, they're guidelines, and we just say, please tell us how you adopted them into your design, or you know, so that the board at least has some comfort level that you at least considered them. We don't have any authority to demand they meet the guidelines. Right. That's the problem with them. But yet they've been placed in the ordinance that they have to be addressed. So it's not really authoritative. We don't have any real hard, you know, enforcement of it. But would you please look at those and say you adopted some of those, please?
And like you said, some of them are outdated and some of them are been superseded.
Right.
So the older ones anyway, don't seem to be a working document anymore.
I think the two areas where these guidelines are mostly used is with architecture and landscaping. I think those are the two areas that we really, because lighting, we basically adopt lighting standards. Signage, we have signing standards. Site planning, that is our ordinance. It's all based on site planning. So it's really architecture and landscaping are the two big components that we usually run into with the guidelines.
So maybe it's time to move some of that stuff to the ordinance and delete out the guidelines completely.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we've heard with the architecture is, you know, is everyone sold that we want exclusively New England style architecture, and what does New England style architecture even mean?
Right.
I think you can take things out of that, and I'm dealing with this right now in the town of Poland, where they've got their own downtown standards and they're facing the same dilemma. We want these things, but we don't want them so restrictive that we restrict people from coming in and wanting to redevelop in the commercial district or in that case their village district. So how do we do that? And we want a blend of architecture and a blend of landscaping. But if you've got a beautiful building with great architecture, do you want to blind it with landscaping so no one can see it from the public way? No. But if you've got a slightly uglier building that doesn't have a lot of aesthetics to it, well, then you'd want to hide it maybe a little bit more. So I kind of thought that maybe the way you have to do that is maybe there's some kind of point system where you give high points if you do a lot of architecture, and then you can back off the landscaping and vice versa. If you have not so attractive architecture, you have to bolster it with more landscaping. And maybe there's a point system or something in there you can adopt. But I mean, that's something that's going to take a little bit of time to develop. I don't think we have necessarily the time to finalize anything like that. But to your point, maybe it's just something we have to run up the flagpole. I don't know if it goes to I don't know how this even got into. Was this through the planning board or was this adopted by the selectmen? Do you know, Alex?
No clue. That's what I asked Phil was, there doesn't say anything in the guidelines on how they're amended, how they're added. Are they, voted on by the select board? Is it a town meeting vote? I mean, it's not an ordinance. So I asked for guidance on that.
The guidelines came from a study that was done by a guy who lived over
Terry
in.
DeWine.
I'm sorry?
Terry DeWine did it.
Yeah, that's it, Greg. Thanks, Greg.
Oh, I remember it all well. It was not meant to have teeth. That's the way it was.
So
that's the way it was meant to be.
We sat through hours and hours of those presentations, and the end result was a packet that we just said we'd accept this as guidelines. All right, is my understanding correct, Greg? My memory?
Yes.
Yeah. So we never did anything with it, really, other than that.
And that's fine. But I think the problem is that we've got it inserted into it is referenced into our ordinance. So
right.
Like you said, I don't think we can deny somebody on it. So I don't know what the teeth is. I guess it's a suggestive tool, I guess, more than anything.
Well, so should we remove that portion from the ordinance then? I mean, we don't use it. Do we really use it at all?
When we're in the commercial zone, I always make people, as painstaking as it is, I make them at least address a narrative of how they considered this document.
And that's more of a CYA because it's in our ordinance.
Correct.
I mean,
So I'll let you.
I mean, to me, if you've got guidelines that we have no powers to enforce, I mean, to me, they're just causing confusion. I almost think we'd be better off getting rid of any guidelines that we don't want to try to enforce and bring over those that we do into the ordinance somehow. Not tonight, but
no, but we certainly could do a very quick ordinance that just removes that from our ordinance, that frees us up from sending people to look at things that they don't really need to pay any attention to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is it that easy?
I think it's that easy. I mean, it's not in too many places in our ordinance. I think it's only under site plan review for those in the commercial district.
Because other than the presentations, that the planning board sat through, nobody else has really said yay or nay on any of those things. So I'm wondering if we really should even have it in the ordinance, without officially being adopted, I guess is what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
It could be just another, recommended packet that could, be available at the town office as suggestions for people, who are interested in how we want to do it. But at the same token, like I just said, the architecture says it has to be New England style. And I think that's always a problem with this board and other boards that, don't want to be handcuffed to being to one type of architecture.
And could we just do the same thing with the site guidelines? And just have them available as a supplemental piece of information.
Right. And I guess that's the question. But then to your point, Bob, when we get into a situation like you did, and we have to make a determination about, how did we meet a certain standard with regards to scenic impacts, what do we lean on as far as did we address it?
Well, isn't this something the comprehensive plan should address? And then depending on what that comes out of that gives what the community really wants. And then you would either include it in ordinances that we develop or not. To me, the comprehensive plan should drive something like that.
Yeah, the issue with that is I think our comp plan is outdated as well.
Well, they're trying to start one up right now, a new one.
Well, yeah, okay. So you're basically saying defer it to the comp plan and let them lead the guide. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically what Poland did. It came about, their current study of it came about during their comp plan. So you're kind of the same process.
Okay,
Yeah, I like that.
that makes sense.
Well, I'll let you know at least what Phil says on that. Maybe he'll come back with a little bit more information. He seems to have a lot of the history on our older documents and stuff. So I'll let you know there. But on that, there was one more I was going to try and slide in to see what you guys thought. But before I do anything, I might maybe just ask you now and see if it's even worth looking into. But Aroma Joe's submitted a permit for their signs. And Jim and I have already kind of gone over this one, but basically they're over on what's allowed for signage if we include their menus as signs. And originally when I looked at it, I felt my opinion based on the definition was that the menus should be considered signs. Jim disagreed, as did Chris. So of course I went to another code officer who agreed with me, and then I went to Phil, who also agreed with me. So the attorney's opinion is the menus, based on our definition, are considered signs, and they count because the way it's written in our ordinance, you can only have so much signage based on how much road frontage you have. Which then you factor in the changes to road frontage, that could also affect that down the road as well. But anyways, so I was curious if you guys had any thoughts on that. Do you want to try and define menu? Because menus are not defined in our ordinance. We could make a menu board. We have a sandwich board, but we could make a menu board sign definition and exempt them if you want, or we could leave it as is and they'll have to just deal with it and reduce their signage.
I just have one question. When we have drive-throughs, because this only comes up when we have drive-throughs, what do we have for definitions of drive-through? Do we allow a menu sign board for a drive-through?
I don't think we have a definition.
Well,
That's the only time it comes up.
I would say from sitting through those sign presentations, I'd say that we really do want to reduce the size, or at least limit the size of signs along 302. So I would go along with what you say, Alex, is that the venue is included in the sign and they're going to have to reduce it.
I mean, the way I looked at it was if that property abuts a residential property, typically the menus are going to be on the side or facing the sidelines. If that big lit up menu board is facing a residential property, there should be some screening there by site plan requirements, but still, I mean, at night they're going to have that lit up screen facing their and now all the menus are turning into the LED screens,
right?
So they're very
I almost think that we should have a definition for drive-through signage, because that's the only place we see these menus. But the other question is, okay, say you have like an ice cream shop or something and you have the menu board posted on the wall. Is that a sign?
It's a great question. It does happen. And I don't want to say I opened Pandora's box, but I kind of feel like that's what's happened with this one.
I think I agree with Jim. I think we need a separate thing to address menus because, like you're saying, LED panels aren't, if you don't say at nighttime, you got to turn down the intensity or something, it definitely needs its own section.
I mean, I guess I'm having trouble distinguishing a menu board, that the language, from a sign. I mean, what the heck is a sign? So to me, it's a sign, but maybe not.
What you're saying is a sign is a sign.
I think so.
But I do.
All right, did I help you, Alex?
One measure, one.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask this question then too, Alex, and I'm just trying to educate the board too. If you go into a site and they have wayfinder signs through their parking lot telling you go this direction or that direction, or the drive-through's over here, is that a sign?
No, it's a navigational sign. It's considered one of our exempt signs.
Oh,
So
good.
that was the thought, was we could add an exempt sign, like there are certain signs that are not, they don't count towards the square footage. We could add a certain amount allowed for menus per lot, per frontage.
Kevin and I think, are on the same page. If we do that, then we can also reduce the size, the intensity of the lighting and everything if we do define those. And, with technology, all these signs are just going to become more and more digital just as technology increases.
Okay, so I'll keep working on that. I don't know if that's one that's going to happen for next meeting. It might end up being next year, but I'll work on that some more.
Okay. Let's see, timeline. Do we have anything else for tonight? We've done those. So we have the planning board on the 9th. Will we have, will we be up to having them all finalized by then? February 9th?
Yeah, I think that should be fine.
Okay. Then we were looking at a public hearing. What do we have coming up in the works? Do we have lots?
You have Raymond Hills coming back.
Right.
And I think that's it.
So do you think, as it looks right now, we can just do the public hearing on March 9th? On the planning board night?
Yeah.
Is that?
I don't know if Raymond Hills will be
so.
coming back. I don't know if Raymond Hills will be coming back. They're coming in February, but I don't know if they'll be coming back in March.
Okay. And you haven't heard anything else in the works?
What about that one on Raymond Cape, the one that Sebago we're actually doing? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything on that one. I don't know if you've heard anything.
I think they may be waiting for vernal pool season. I'm not sure.
I know you mentioned that they have a new project engineer or whatever.
I don't think that'll be, well, I can't say, but I don't think it's on the schedule for anything in March. I don't.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Sandy, I think we were saving March 2nd, right? I think was our fallback date. So I think we could probably do away with that date now and just
Okay.
go with 9th.
Okay, we'll do the public hearing March 9th.
Yep.
Got it.
All right. Any other business? Yeah, I got one question, pretty much more for the board, but Jim and Alex, you're certainly welcome to chime in. We have one member that really wants to stay on the board.
I was going to call you tomorrow about that.
But has a very hard time actually getting to meetings.
This is the third in a row again, Bob.
Yeah, our bylaws say 3 missed meetings in a row, and the chairman, is supposed to contact, and I've done that, and
done that twice.
He's expressed a desire to stay, has shown up for a meeting and once right after that conversation, and then has now missed the series. I had the conversation again, and right after that meeting he showed up, but has now not shown up again. So
we do, Bob, we have people that are qualified that have applied for being on planning board.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
So my question, I guess, for the board is, should I go now and say, you've got your warning once and you missed and you showed, you got your second warning and you didn't show it, now
Three strikes, you're done.
Is that pretty much what you think, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to have a quorum, and if some people occasionally can't be here, we need as many people to depend on as we can. So, yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah, my thought is that I've run boards before, and if they're, it's kind of like your kids. If they're not, medically excuses, then you're absent, right?
Right.
I haven't heard of anything, or I don't know. In some cases, I don't know if he's even notified us that he's going to be absent from the meetings, right?
No, not anymore. He used to.
So that
At least not me.
right. So unfortunately, that does kind of imply a certain level of interest or responsibility, I guess.
Okay. Kevin or Greg, do you have anything that you okay?
I mean, I'm kind of sorry that somebody, you know, wouldn't show up, and it would be nice to have his participation, especially since we have Zoom now. It makes it fairly easy to do that. So I would think he'd want to try to make it to those meetings.
Okay. Then I'll get back in contact with him again and
Yeah,
see if
I
he
just
will,
think as any board member, if you're not going to be present at a meeting, I think it is a responsibility of you to inform the town or somebody, because you are relied on in the case that for a quorum, and if you're not there, it may jeopardize a quorum. So I think if you're not going to be attending a meeting, it's your responsibility to make sure, you know, that the town is notified in advance, because it costs the town money and then potentially applicants money
right,
beyond the
especially if we
whole
don't have a quorum,
process.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, on the March 9th meeting, I will not be in town, but I do intend to Zoom. But I'm not sure of my internet connection where I will be. So Ed is on standby to run the meeting. So if the meeting starts and you don't see my face, it probably means I don't have an internet connection strong enough to make the connection.
Support it, yep.
Yeah, to coordinate, okay? So
We'll just get you on a bicycle machine so you can keep away and get a good signal.
all right, is there anything else, anybody? We're all set? All right, thank you very much for attending. And see you see you when? See you pretty soon now.
February 9th.
Yeah, February 9th. Okay. Good night, guys.
What time, February 9th?
Oh, good question. That's our normal meeting time, right?
Right. So I would think you would do that at 7.
Yeah, let's do that at 7. Good question, Mike.
All right.
Okay.
I'm making a note.
Thanks, Yang. Night, guys.
Good evening and welcome to the select board meeting. Today is February 8th and everybody is here tonight. That's great. Do we have to do that, Rolf or Joe, where we call everybody out to say who's here? Since it's
No.
Zoom? No? All right. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 11th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Lonnie is abstained because he wasn't here. All right. New business, consideration of Sebago Lake Region Chamber of Commerce Regional Marketing Campaign Proposal. That would be Robin. I thought I just saw her. Oh, there she is.
I'm just unmuting and putting my picture up there and all that fun stuff. So first of all, thank you guys for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. I am the executive director of the Sebago Lakes Region Chamber of Commerce. And we are supporting the following 8 towns, just so that people know. Sometimes people don't know what towns the Sebago Lakes region covers, but we cover Casco, Gray, Naples, New Gloucester, Raymond, Sebago, Standish, and Windham. And we have gone to each of those 8 towns. Actually, we've gone to 6 of those towns. We're doing you guys tonight, and next week we're going to Standish. And we've asked each of those towns for 1% of their ARPA funds to create and implement a extensive marketing campaign for the region. As most of you know, if somebody comes to the region, they're not usually staying just in one town. If they come to Raymond, there's lots of things that they could do in Gray or Casco or Naples. So as a chamber, we really want to be able to tout the entire region and all of the things that there are to do. Originally, when we put this together, we thought we would do an app for the region, but in doing some investigation of folks that do use apps, other chambers that use them, it's not a lot of people will download an app for one specific chamber. So what we've decided to do instead is to do a QR code. So those funny little codes that you see different places. So we're going to have a QR code that will bring people to our website. And when they come to the website, we're working with a web designer to have a robust website that gives people things that they can do in the region, whether it's skiing or hiking or going to beaches. And we're hoping that all 8 towns do participate, because we do want to be able to market the entire region. At this point, I have gotten the okay from the other 6 towns, but as you know, some of the towns then have to go and actually have it voted on by the members of the town. And it seems like each of you does things just a little bit differently. So I'm here tonight asking for 1% of your ARPA funds, or it comes out to about $1 a resident, so that we can take that money and use it in this fund. And some other things that we're doing as well, we have not we, but the state of Maine has a magazine called Maine Invites You. It is the Maine Association of Tourism's it's kind of like their Bible, so to speak, of what there is to do in Maine. And we have a 2-page spread in there, and the ads are quite expensive. It costs about $9,000 for a 2-page spread. And what we are doing is we're giving the businesses who want to participate in that a little bit of a break. And that money, again, is coming from some of the ARPA funds that we're hoping to get from our towns. And I'm super excited to state that the first time, I've been in my position for 2 years, the first time since I've been in my position, we have a business represented from each of our 8 towns. So it's great that we're able to utilize that and be able to have all of our 8 towns in that magazine. The other thing we want to take a look at is social media. You know, do we want to go and do Facebook and target like the Boston area, or do we want to do, you know, where do we want to go to target to let people know what's going on in our area? And the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to do some ads, commercials. And what we're finding is that cable TV probably isn't our best bet. Maybe we need to do streaming. So some of you may get on your phones and you'll take a look at something, and all of a sudden a Hannaford ad comes up and you're like, where's that coming from? So we want to be that ad that people go, hey, where's that coming from? And it's like, oh, the Sebago Lakes region, let me learn a little bit about them and where they are. And so the plan is hopefully going to be a 2-year plan, because we are getting half of our ARPA funds hopefully this year, and then the other half would be next year, based on when most of the towns are actually going to be receiving those. I will tell you, the town of Wyndham has already given us both years. They just wanted to get it over with and just give us all of the money. So we already have some of the money to start. But it looks like, based on conversations with the other towns, they are going to spread it out over the 2 years, which actually for me makes more sense, because I want to be able to spread it out over the 2 years. So we don't have this nailed down by any stretch of the imagination. We're just starting the process. I can't say, hey, we're going to spend this money when I don't have a full okay from all of the towns. So, but we're working towards it, and we want to have a plan in place so that when we do get the funds, we're able to move forward. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Hi, Robin. Cherise.
Hi, Cherise.
Hi, nice to meet you virtually, I guess. So I have a question. If you were successful in getting all towns on board and contributing the 1%, what does that amount to?
$56,000. So we would have half of that, 28,000 for this year and 28,000 for next year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Don.
I would also like to say that, you know, I'm supporting this wholeheartedly. You've been great through the pandemic in your support of the town, and with the PPE and the meetings that we had. I think we were pretty much on every meeting, our staff. And and of course, one of the allowable expenses is for business support and development. So this is an appropriate use of ARPA money to help our local businesses.
Yes, and Don is definitely one of my, this is being recorded, so I'm going to probably get in trouble, but one of my better town managers. He comes to things, he participates, and I really appreciate that.
Do we need to make a motion, or is this all still in discussion, or?
Yeah, probably should have made the motion first, but.
But what's the dollar amount, Cherise, the exact dollar amount?
Be $4,777 total.
Bargain.
Times 2 years?
No, that's the total over the 2 years.
Oh, so $2,200 a year or so?
Yep.
You only have 40,000, for, how many residents do you have?
I didn't count residents. You asked me how many.
You asked for 1% of the opera money. I think we're getting a little bit of a break that way.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, we're a little conservative too, you know, Robin. We're gonna take the option that, you know, you give us 2, we're gonna take the option that is better for us, perhaps, maybe.
I gotcha.
All right. I didn't know about the per capita thing. That's actually new to me. I thought it was 1% of the total, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I was told it was 1% or $1 per, which I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think the federal formula works that way at all.
Yeah. You know what? If you guys are willing to give me money, I'm not going to be picky.
Yeah, I don't think the difference is that great, though. It may be. I mean, I don't know. Hold on.
Well, the only reason I ask is because I was working with the New Gloucester town, and they were saying that I was going to get a certain amount, and I was like, that doesn't seem to make sense. And she was giving me 0.01% and not 1%.
So our population is 4,606 according to the last census. So what was that again? 40? You're actually
4777.
So you're doing a little better, actually.
Again, not complaining.
Yeah, I didn't know about we just know about the 1%. That's all we knew.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Does anybody else have any questions on this too before what you guys want to do?
I do real quick. Could you clarify, Sharice, what that number was? Because I've heard 2 different numbers now.
Yeah, it'd be $4,777 over for both years. So
Perfect.
she wants to bill us for 1/2, $2388.50 for the first half, which we've received, and we expect to get the second half, I believe in August. Then the next $2388.50 to equal the 1% of the opera funds.
Rolf, do you have any questions?
Well, if we do it in the split, essentially, then we have to put it into the budget for next year. If we do it in the one, when we do it as an override on this year's, correct? I mean, you know, it's a wash either way, because you've got an offsetting income, but you know, the proper thing, if you're going to split it over 2 years, you have to put it into the budget for next year. If we do the whole thing this year, then you do it then we work it that way, and it's done. It's finished and over.
I don't know. Does the opera money have to be put through the town budget, Sharice? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, no, I'm not aware of that.
I'm not sure either. I think you could appropriate that opera money next year, and I'm not sure it necessarily has to be included in the budget. But I mean, obviously, you can't go wrong with that approach. But I don't think the federal government's requiring that.
Well, yeah, but what about the auditor when he comes to look? If you've got funds that you're expending out of there that haven't been accounted for, someplace they've got to clear through. Someplace you've got an income, then you've got an outflow. So someplace it's got to get accounted for.
Well, we're having to account for the expenditures that we're making to the government, to the federal government, and we'll be making a number of those, hopefully, you know, within this year. We haven't pulled the trigger yet, but so those will be approved by the Board of Selectmen. I mean, we can certainly research it and see what the auditor might like, but I'm not sure. What are your thoughts, Sharice?
Well, it's not part of the opera funds are going to be considered, you know, Joe's very familiar with this, you know, this like we did with the recreation department, the special revenue. We're going to set up a special revenue fund for the opera funds. It has its own bank account. So all revenues that are coming in from the federal government, interest being earned, and the expenditures will all be coming out of that account. So it's going to be really clean. And the first report of expenditures is due April 30th. To my knowledge, it does not have any impact on, you know, our budgeting process for the general fund.
But there will be a very clear track of